Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope your day is going lovely. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we are going to create a project with the Altenew Craft Your Life project kit for August 2021. It's called Lush Garden. This is your 6x8 stamp set, and there's a brochure in there too, guys. Beautiful images in your stamp set. And then you get the coordinating dies. It'll create those two beautiful blooms and two different size leaves. So it's a layering stamp set that will create those. So pretty. You get a stencil, and this month you get a simple coloring stencil that will color in, simple meaning it's just one solid image in the stencil. And it'll color the blooms that are in your stamp set. But there's also a layering floral in here. It's that little yellow flower on the end. It creates layers that you can create some beautiful accent pieces for your flowers too. So that's your stencil. And then you get a beautiful Lush Garden Botanical 3D embossing folder, which is stunning, guys. This is beautiful, and the detail in here is just gorgeous. So we're going to use all 4 projects today. Now I do want to let you guys know that the stencil lines up is meant to color in with your stamp set, I'm pretty sure. But you can possibly get away with using it on your embossing folder. The embossing folder images are slightly smaller than your stencil. I'm going to line it up on your embossing folder to show you the difference. And it's just a little bit, your stencil is a little bit larger. So if you do decide, know that you'll go outside the lines of your embossed area. So there is your large floral, and then you have a smaller floral that's on there too. And also your layered image with the 3 flowers in your stencil is on your embossing folder image too. But you can see here, it's just a hair, but you could use it if you wanted to. So that's a nice option for that. But again, your stencil is made for your stamp set for simple coloring, of course. And I'm going to use my Distress Oxide inks to color in my floral today. Instead of doing the layering, I'm just going to do some simple coloring. But you can see it lines up beautifully. And then your large one does too. So you could use your outline with the stencil to add a little bit of detail and skip your layering. And that's what we're going to do today. So I have a piece of white cardstock. I do want to let you guys know I'm going to spray the back with pixie spray. But sometimes if stencils aren't marked, it's hard for me to tell the front from the back. Altenew has their name on it, guys. So that makes a huge, huge difference. Because you always want to spray your pixie spray on the right side. And there's been a few times where I've sprayed it on the wrong side. So look for Altenew and flip it around and then add your pixie spray. And then I also wanted to share with you, with the stencil, there is for the layering flowers, there's an outline with it on both sets of layering. So what that means, it makes it so easy to line up. So that is a nice little addition to the stencil too. Now to color in my flower, again, we're just using some Distress Oxide inks, and I'm going to use my blending brush just to color our first coat with my Squeeze Lemonade. And then I want to add a little bit of a color with Picked Raspberry. I love these 2 colors when they're blended together because it creates a corally color, which is my favorite color. And I'm just going to do a little shading on one side so I have a gradient of color on my flower. Now I'm stenciling first because I think it's easier and I don't have to rub away the embossing powder from my stamped image. We're going to stamp on top of this. So this I found was easier. Now I did one more for good measure. I'm only going to use one for my project today, but sometimes it's nice to have option of the one you like better. So I'm going to do 2. Now I'm going to do the leaves also with Twisted Citron. I did use my masking paper and taped off so I wouldn't go over my floral images. And I'm going to use a darker shade of green oxide ink, which is Modelon, to give my leaves a little bit of a gradient too. I'm going to stamp a couple more leaves. I'm going to stamp the large leaf one more time, and then we'll stamp the small one also using the same colors. Twisted Citron, and then doing a little bit of dark shading with Modelon. And then we'll do our last little leaf here. Just masking off so it doesn't go outside the stenciled area. But all of the florals and the leaves are very easy to color in. Next, I'm going to bring back my stencil. When I mixed my picked raspberry and squeezed lemonade together, it did create a beautiful corally color, but I want a little pink in there too. So I'm going to darken up just slightly the edge with my picked raspberry, just so I have my yellow, my corally color, and my pink. I think that's going to make a pretty flower. I'm going to flip around and do my other one. That's very easy to line back up too, guys. Add a little bit more here. Okay, after we have our coloring done, and again, if you want to just use your inks and do the layering, the flaring flower is gorgeous. Look at your brochure inside your stamp set. It's stunning. I decided to take my outline, go over my stenciled image along with my leaf here, and we're going to heat emboss with some white embossing powder. I like this color with white. I just think it looks very pretty. And since we are using oxide inks, I do recommend highly using your anti-static powder tool over your stenciled image. You don't want that embossing powder to stick to your oxide ink. I'm going to stamp with Versamark ink, and then I'm going to go over both of my images. We'll do one flower and one leaf at a time with white embossing powder. We'll just tap off the excess. I'll bring in my heat gun and we'll go ahead and melt the embossing powder. This is a very fine lined outline, and I just think it looks really pretty in white, but you could do any color you'd like, guys. If you want a more bold color, you could use black. So I did that to all of my image, just added the outline image from my stamp set, and then heat embossed them all with white embossing powder. Now I'm ready to do some die cutting. I'm going to take the coordinating dies and die cut out my floral and then all of my leaves. And again, for my card today, we're just going to use one of our flowers and then all three of our leaves. So there's they are, and now we're going to stamp our sentiment. Like I said, you could hardly see them in the stamp set, but there's quite a few. And I take that back. We're going to do a little embossing. I have a panel that measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. I'm adding this to my embossing folder, and we're going to run that through and then my my die cutting machine and emboss it. And I'm going to show you how gorgeous this is. I think this would make a beautiful stationery set or even a wedding invitation. I think it's just stunning, and the detail in there is just so pretty on its own. White is just gorgeous. I'm going to go ahead and take my emboss panel, and I'm leaving it white. We're going to adhere it to an A2 size card front. We'll just center it, and then we'll go ahead and stamp our sentiment now. I know I mentioned that earlier, but the sentiments in here say, with love, thank you, hugs, congratulations, and you've been on my mind, or you have been on my mind. I'm going to go ahead and stamp that on some dark gray cardstock. So I treated my paper with my anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to stamp it with Versamark ink, and then we'll go over our sentiment with white embossing powder too. I'm just going to scoop it in. Sometimes it's easier just to scoop your sentiment in your embossing powder. I'm going to melt the embossing powder, and then I am going to trim it down and create a little banner with it. Instead of fishtailing the end, I just kind of angled it off, and then I arranged my flower, kind of tucking that sentiment on the right side underneath. I haven't pressed down too good. I like to kind of play around with my placement first, and then I'll press it down really good. I did pop up all of my images and sentiment with foam adhesive. I'm going to add a few iridescent bubbles to my panel, just keeping it soft. And then I wanted to bring in a little more gray, and I didn't want to add splatters. So I'm taking the center layering image in your stamp set. It's nice because this is A6. Your stamp set is actually numbered or lettered and numbered, so you know exactly which, C1, C2, C3, you know exactly what to stamp. This is A6 that I stamped in the center of my flower. I just wanted a little extra gray. But that's my project using the Altenew Craft Your Life project kit for this month. I hope you like it, and if you want to see still shots, head over to my blog, guys. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.